His purpose is unshakable. It doesn't matter what I feel, it doesn't matter what I see. My hope will always be in your promises to me. And now I'm casting out all fear, for your love has set me free. My hope will always be in your promises to me. Oh. As I walk into the days to come, I will not forget what you've done, for you have supplied my every need. Oh, your presence is enough for me. Yeah. It doesn't matter what I feel, it doesn't matter what I see. My hope will always be in your promises to me. And now I'm casting out all fear, for your love has set me free. My hope will always be in your promises to me. Oh. You will always be more than enough for me. You will always be more than enough for me. Nothing's gonna stop the plans you made. Nothing's gonna take your love away. You will always be more than enough for me. We sing, you will always be more than enough for me. Oh, you will always be more than enough for me. Nothing's gonna stop the plans you made. Nothing's gonna take your love away. You will always be more than enough for me. Doesn't matter what I feel, doesn't matter what I see. My hope will always be in your promises to me. Now I'm casting out all fear, for your love has set me free. My hope will always be in your promises to me. It doesn't matter what I feel, it doesn't matter what I see. My hope will always be in your promises to me. And now I'm casting out all fear, for your love has set me free. My hope will always be in your promises to me. Yeah, in your promises to me. Yeah. Oh, you promised all the good things for me. Oh. 'Cause you'll always be more than enough for me. You will always be more than enough for me. Nothing's gonna stop the plans you made. Nothing's gonna take your love away. You will always be more than enough for me. Last time we said, you will always be more than enough for me. You will always be me. Nothing's gonna stop the plans you made. Nothing's gonna take your love away. You will always be more than enough for me.
We're on the second week of our series, When Faith is Difficult. And we're using this time to talk about how do we really have faith? How do we live by faith, even in times of great difficulty, even in times of negative emotions, even in times of big problems? Because when we feel our faith the least, that's actually when we need it the most. So we need God, especially in those difficult moments. Last week, we talked about faith when I'm anxious. Today, we're talking about another one that people ask about often and go through often. Faith when I doubt. Faith when I have doubts. What do I do if I still have questions and doubts about my faith? What if there are aspects of God I still don't understand? Theologies, Bible verses I have questions about. Is that possible? Does that mean I don't live by faith if I have these questions? How do I live by faith if I sometimes have doubts? And today we're going to see in this message that doubt and unbelief are not the same thing as faith, but there is also an unhelpful kind of doubt that produces unbelief. But there's also a good kind of doubt, or God can use doubt in a good way. A doubt that produces stronger faith. And this kind of doubt shouldn't be avoided or shunned. It's actually good for you. Kind of like how cholesterol, there's good cholesterol and bad cholesterol. Same thing with doubt. Allow me to read from 3 different passages today. Proverbs 3 verse 5 to 8 says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and shun evil. This will bring health to your body and nourishment to your bones." Hebrews 11:1 and 6. Now faith is confidence in what we hope for, and assurance about what we do not see. And without faith, it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. Finally, Mark 9:21 to 24, this is a time when Jesus' disciples brought him a demon-possessed boy. And Jesus asked the boy's father, "How long has he been like this?" "From childhood," he answered. "It has often thrown him into fire or wanted to kill him. But if you can do anything, take pity on us and help us." "If you can," said Jesus, "everything is possible for one who believes." Immediately the boy's father exclaimed, "I do believe. Help me overcome my unbelief." Interesting statement. I do believe, but help me overcome my unbelief. And I think if I think about this message and us and people, everyday Christians walking our life, trying to know God, this is probably the prayer we have. Lord, I do believe naman. I believe in these areas, but help me overcome my unbelief in these other areas. And today our goal to understand how faith and doubt interact is we need to ask ourselves, what is faith anyway? How does it work? Can it thrive even when there's doubt? Could God turn our doubts around to enhance and maybe even strengthen our faith? We need to understand the nature of faith itself, you see. I think this is messages for people who are wrestling with their faith. Maybe you're a believer who at one point felt that, okay, I was so sure about it as a leader and I knew what I was doing and now I'm questioning so much. Great, this message is for you. Or maybe you're a new believer and you're like, okay, I kind of believe the Jesus thing, but grabe, ang dami namang pagbabago dito, hindi ko naman alam kung naniniwala ako sa lahat ng to. This message is for you. Or maybe you're not even a believer yourself. And you're wondering, what is this? I like some of it, I get some of it, but you always go to a level I don't understand. I'm not sure I'm ready to go there. What does it mean to have saving faith? This message is for you as well. Because we're going to understand how faith works and why your questions are valid and why God is okay with you asking them. What is faith? And to make the point for this message, we're going to use 3 different contrasts. We're going to say we want this kind of faith, not this kind of faith. That kind of contrast. I want this kind of faith, not this kind of faith. All right? What is that? We want strong faith, not untested faith. We want living faith, not a static faith. And we want a God-sustained faith, not a self-sustained faith. That's what we're after. And this is how faith and doubt can sometimes be used by God to work together to make our faith stronger. Let's see what we mean. Number 1, we want strong faith, not undestined faith. In this sense, faith is being willing to test your assumptions. Faith is being willing to test your assumptions, and doubt can do that. Are you ready for your assumptions to be tested? See, faith needs to be tested. Even the biblical concept of faith, so often people talk about blind faith, blind faith. Don't think, just have faith. That is not the biblical use of the word faith. The Greek word for whenever you see the word faith in the Bible, most often is pistis. And that's closely related to the Greek word for persuade. So faith has an element of persuasion. Faith has an element of being convinced. Faith is an element of reason, where you're looking at the evidence and you say, you know what, this is the best course of action to take. I want to believe. There's a place there. It's not a blind leap, an unquestioningly, blindly accepted faith. In fact, that's not a very strong kind of faith at all. It might be an emotional experience. That kind of faith might be coming from social pressure. And sometimes, often, those things don't last because they're not coming from truth. Because they're not engaging the whole of your being, because you have sincere doubts that you haven't brought to the table and you haven't asked before God. Our faith needs to be tested. We need to be willing to test our assumptions. We need to be willing to ask questions, and faith is being willing to go through the process to talk about it. That's what spiritual community and discipleship is for. People to walk through with when you have questions like this. At the same breath, if we're willing to test our faith, we should also test our doubts. Because sometimes what we do is we take these doubts and we accept the doubts blindly. We swallow them blindly. We make a blind leap of doubt, which is another kind of leap of faith, just in the wrong direction. We just have one question and, oh no, I can't answer that question. I give up on my faith altogether. Why? Why are we giving up so quickly? Have you tested your doubts? Because unbelief is actually a different kind of faith on its own. It requires huge leaps in logic. It has, lack of belief in God means we need to believe that something came from nothing. We need to believe that non-life produced life. We need to believe that you're a human being with aspirations and dreams for higher things, and all of those aspirations and dreams for higher things are just chemical accidents. Maybe the biggest leap that we need to take, if we only believe our doubts and reject every kind of revelation of God, is the leap that I understand everything. That if I don't understand it, if it doesn't make sense to me, then it must not be true. It must not be valuable. What a tremendous assumption. That's the Proverbs 3 verse we read earlier. Do not lean on your own understanding. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Imagine the foolishness of that assumption. I know everything. Doesn't make sense to me. It must not be true. I'm not saying don't ask questions. I'm not saying don't look for answers. Absolutely. And we need a spiritual community where you can bring those questions and look for answers. But at the same time, we have to be honest. I might not understand everything. That if there is a God big and strong enough to make everything, that it's within the realm of reason for him to have actions that I won't understand because I'm limited. Tim Keller put it this way in his book, The Reason for God, which is a great book for this. And this is the very beginning. He says, a person's faith can collapse almost overnight if she has failed over the years to listen patiently to her own doubts, which should not only be discarded after long reflection. Believers should acknowledge and wrestle with doubts, not only their own, but their friends and their neighbors' doubts. And this is why, honestly, I've seen people grow up in church, start off with a strong faith, and then it collapses because they never tested it. No, we want strong faith, not untested faith. At the same time, though, Tim Keller goes on to talk about how we need to test our doubts as well. But even as believers should learn to look for reasons behind their faith, skeptics must learn to look for a type of faith hidden within their own reasoning. All doubts, however skeptical and cynical they may seem, are really a set of alternate beliefs. Even every doubt, therefore, is based on a leap of faith. For example, the leap of faith that I'm supposed to understand everything. The leap of faith that science can tell us everything. That is not a scientifically provable statement. In short, we want strong faith, not untested faith. And strong faith comes from testing our faith, testing our doubts, examining both, rigorously attacking both and seeing which one holds the best. Honestly, the most testing of our faith isn't even the intellectual kind, isn't even the questioning kind. It's in the life circumstance. And many of you have felt this. Life changed, you graduated from college, and now you're working and you're beset by problems and you're in debt and you're wondering, oh gosh, how do I make sense of any of these things? And now you have doubts. That comes, and that's a part of the process. And God's okay with that. Because when our faith is not tested, it's actually not very compelling faith. See, untested faith can be so sure of itself, so dogmatic, so prescriptive, so smug. Ganito lang yan. Dapat ganyan. I guess ganito. Because it's untested. It's coming from knowledge, and that's why there isn't a lot of love. It's quick to judge. So much conviction, but not that much wisdom. Not that much compassion. See, there's something to be said for faith that's been tested, that's been pushed to the limit, where the stuff you've memorized or heard about from before are now being questioned because of the hardship you're going through. That's actually a good thing if you will continue to let God do the process in you. James chapter 1 verse 2-4 says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing," there's that word, the testing of your faith produces perseverance. What is the testing of the faith? It's not even debates. It's trials of many kinds. And he continues, "Let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." That's the benefit of tested faith. That's where doubt can be good. Because you introduce an element of doubt. You and be honest about these doubts. Not just a smoke screen to hide your sinful behavior. Not just a way to say, lahat naman kayo pekes, I don't have to examine. No, examine well. If you have questions, let's question, but let's question well. Let's question honestly, with real integrity, and say, okay, I'll question this, but I'll also question this. And you know what happens? That produces perseverance in our life. And that produces a mature kind of faith, a strong faith. And that's what we want. We want strong faith, not untested faith. Secondly, we want living faith, not static faith. What does that mean? Some people talk and act like faith is just a bunch of information to know. It's static. It's a body of knowledge that if you memorize this, that's it. You're good. Okay, that's all you need to know. And as long as you can parrot that and recite that and post that on social media, then that's it. That's all you need to know. That's not real faith. Real faith is alive. Real faith gets stronger. It's a journey. Because real faith, in the Christian sense, is a relational term. It's a relational term. Our faith gets stronger as we know God better. That's the verse we read earlier in Hebrews chapter 11. Now, faith is confidence in what we hope for, assurance about what we do not see. What are we sure about? God. The more we walk with Him in this living faith, and Lord, I have a little bit of doubt. Okay, but wow, you answer. Okay, and a little more. Oh, wow, you're still there. And it gets stronger and stronger. The biblical example of faith is very often is like a tree. Trees are remarkably strong, even small ones. You ever see like a short, small, thin tree and you think, I'll just pull this up, it's in my way, whatever reason. And it's so strong, and especially, the ones that are 20 years old, 50, 100 years old. And the reason why they're so strong is because they're alive. They've been through storms. They've been through winds. They've had lightning strikes. Branches have fallen off. They've endured fires, and yet they respond. And so the roots get deeper. The trunk gets stronger. The branches grow back, and it's strong. It's a living thing. What kind of faith do you have today? Maybe some of us are afraid to face our doubts or to bring them up because we don't really have a living faith. We have a body of knowledge that we're supposed to remember. And if I forget any of this, and maybe the whole thing falls apart, that's not a faith worth having. The faith worth having is one that's alive, that keeps growing. Mark Littleton, this Christian writer, said this: through doubt, we can learn more than through naive trust. Truth can be trusted. Doubt is the fire through which it passes. But when it has been tried, it will come forth as gold. In this sense, faith is being open to the process. It's a living faith. Are you open to the process? Is God challenging you now? Is God waking you up and I don't want to face it. I don't want to face it. Face it. Face it with God's word. Face it with Christian community and see what God builds from your faith as a result. Something I don't understand now. I won't quit the relationship. I'll embrace the tension. I'll stay connected. I trust that God will clarify things I don't understand. And maybe I'll never understand, but He'll make it so that I don't need to understand as much as I thought I did. This results in a stronger living faith. And finally, we want a God-sustained faith, not a self-sustained faith. Very often, our discomfort with doubt comes from fear, right? We're afraid to even acknowledge our doubts, to bring them up, to mention them, because we think, if I mention these doubts, I'm barely holding it together. Life is rocking. It's all like I'm carrying so much. And if you bump me, I'll drop it all. What's the problem with that picture? You're doing all the carrying. I've got it. This whole faith is up to me. I've got to hold on to this. And if I don't, then it all falls apart. A faith that's solely your responsibility is not a faith worth having. Because the Christian faith is not a religion about faith. No. It's about the object of our faith, Jesus Christ. And that's why it says, even if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can see this mountain move and it'll be moved. It's not talking about the quantity of your faith, but the quality. Why? Because of what is high quality faith? Faith in the right person. I will forget. I will be weak. I will fail to obey you completely, God. But you will never fail me. 2 Timothy says, even when we are faithless, He will remain faithful. It's a God-sustained faith, not a self-sustained faith. God loves to entertain our doubts. Did you know that? You have so many people in the Bible who doubt, and God's like, sure, let's talk about it. They're not breaking their relationship, they're not walking away, but they're going to Him saying, God, why do you let this happen? Why do you let bad things happen in the world? Why didn't you answer my prayer? Why didn't you save my brother? Why aren't you fixing my country? They're bringing legit doubts, like really bringing these hard questions to God. And sometimes God answers it, and sometimes He doesn't answer it because they won't understand or whatever reason. But their faith with Him stays strong. Maybe the most famous example of this is the book of Job. Beautiful book about a man who suffers so much for no good reason that we can see, that he knows, except it's God's will. And at the end, he questions God. He just asks God so many questions. And you know what? God doesn't get mad. He doesn't say, how dare you? Who are you to ask me? No. He says, okay, you can ask me questions, but I'll ask you questions too, okay? And I like this summary by Philip Yancey, the author. He says, one bold message in the book of Job is that you can say anything to God. Throw at Him your grief, your anger, your doubt, your bitterness, your betrayal, your disappointment. He can absorb them all. As often as not, spiritual giants of the Bible are shown contending with God. And you know why we can ask those questions? Because we're sure that He will hear. We're sure that He will listen. That's the kind of God He is. Look at this, Jude 22. Be merciful to those who doubt. I think some of us, just slight tangent here. If you're not the one who's doubting, you know someone who is. Are you merciful? Because that's how God is. That's the verse we read earlier in John 9, right? The boy's father said, I do believe, help me overcome my unbelief. And Jesus healed the boy. See, Jesus can handle our doubts and our unbelief. He's saying, okay, as long as you have faith as small as a mustard, and if you have this much doubt, but you're saying, but Jesus, help me make sense. This is all I've got. He's going to burn. He's going to blow on that spark. And it's going to get stronger and bigger and bigger. He's going to resolve these doubts. And some of them are going to be so small, I don't even need to worry about them anymore until that faith gets stronger and stronger. That's the kind of God he is. That's why doubt isn't exactly such a bad thing. It could work. As long as we're honest with our doubts and we bring them to God. In this sense, faith is bringing our doubts to God. Faith is bringing our doubts to God. That way, faith can actually can be strengthened by those doubts. Like a virus, that ends up strengthening the immune system. Maybe one of the best examples I have, and I'll end with this, are these words by a British poet in the 1800s, Lord Alfred Tennyson. You might know him from the poem The Charge of the Light Brigade. But at one point he said this: there lives more faith in honest doubt, believe me, than in half the creeds. What are creeds? These are the memorized theological statements. I love the creeds. I think they're great. But he says there's more faith in honest doubts than in just, I'm guessing, mindlessly repeating the creeds. And he said this because of his own experience. He was exposed to faith at a young age, and he thought he had a faith in God. But early in his life, as a young man, he lost a friend who helped him with his career, who believed in him, who mentored him, and that friend just died quickly, and it rocked his world. It rocked his world so much it became a foundation stone, like what do you call that? A marker, a milestone in his life. 17 years after his friend died, he would publish the poem In Memoriam. And it's a really long poem. I tried to read all of it. It's just so long. And it's 17 years worth of verses and stanzas and little poems combined to just express his grief with God, where he starts by saying, look, I know you're God, but you know what? Why did you take my friend? And where's my friend now? And here's what he said. And he goes, I sometimes hold it half a sin to put in words the grief I feel. For words like nature half reveal and half conceal the soul within. He goes, I feel like I'm sinning. Can I even say this to you? Can I even pray this to you? And the whole thing reads like a bunch of the book of Psalms. Some of them are like positive. A lot of them are sad. And he misses his friend. And he wonders if there's life after death. But in that wrestling, in that honest expression of those doubts to God, it produced a stronger faith in him. And by the end of this life, he would say, I'm only sure of two things in this life. Because I've questioned so much. I'm only sure of two things in this life. I'm sure of God. And I'm sure that death is not the end of everything. How did he say that? That's not someone posting an Instagrammable quote. No, that is a faith that's solid. That's born out of tragedy and trials and testing and anguish and tears, and it produced that solid faith. I'm sure of God, and I'm sure it will not end in death. In fact, in Memoriam, he says, love is and was my King and Lord, talking about God, and will be, though as yet I keep within his court on earth and sleep, encompassed by his faithful guard. Even if I am asleep on the earth and I'm dead, God is still watching over me. And here at times a sentinel who moves from place to place and whispers to the world of space in the deep night that all is well. I'll encourage you. Be honest about your doubts. Be honest about your questions. Bring them to God. Bring them to Christian community. And it will produce an even stronger faith than you ever thought you had. We want strong faith, not untested faith. In this sense, faith is willing to test our assumptions. We want living faith, not static faith. In this sense, faith is being willing to go through the process. We want God-sustained faith, not self-sustained faith. In this sense, faith is bringing our doubts to God. And when we know this, then the doubt actually strengthens our faith. And you can keep walking with Jesus and enjoying a relationship with him. Let's pray. Lord, please help us to be honest, to face what's really going on. I pray for different kinds of people hearing this, Lord. Some of us are people with doubts. Lord, some of them, many of them are not even believers. And they have doubts and they're wondering, do I even believe this thing? And listen to me quickly. If you're not a believer in Jesus, I can understand that you have a lot of questions. I can understand there's a lot of stuff that you find problematic and you don't believe. And we can talk about that. And you don't have to accept all of that. But the main thing that Jesus is saying, that he's asking you if you will believe, if you will accept, is that you were made for more than just this life. And that the problem that you're feeling, the problems that you're experiencing, that we're all experiencing, are caused by sin being separated from him. And the problem is that will result in death. And so he died on the cross for us and took away that punishment. If you want to know more about that, you can write us. But maybe now you might even want to say, okay, I don't understand everything else, but I'm willing to believe that. And you're saying, Jesus, I need you to fix me, to change me, to do that work in my life. If you believe that, then that's the beginning of your faith journey with him. Lord, I also pray for those believers who are wrestling with doubts, that you will help them find people around them they can talk to, that they can wrestle with these things with, to wrestle honestly and sensitively. Some of them, Lord, have been hurt, Lord. Some of us are hurt by other people. Some of us are hurt by life experiences that have just beaten us down. And it's produced that. I don't know if you really love me, God. I don't know if you really hear my prayers. Lord, I pray that for those people, this will be true. James 1, that the testing of their faith will produce perseverance and maturity, that they'll come out of it stronger than ever. Lord, I pray for those people who need to pray to you, who are afraid to express those doubts to you. I pray, Lord, that you will help them to have honest prayers, even right now, even today, to tell you, Lord, this is what I feel, these are my questions. And Lord, I'm confident you will answer. In Jesus' name, amen. If you need to talk to people about these things, if you're wrestling with your faith, wrestle honestly, fight. Bring whatever you want to bring as evidence. That's good. But talk to someone about it. If you don't know anyone you can talk to near where you are, then write us. The email is in the description below. Our contact info is there. Send me a message, send Richard a message, and Janica, we would love to help you out with this and talk to you about that. No judgment, no impatience. Have mercy on those who doubt, just like God is merciful to us. If you have put your faith in Jesus and you're wondering what happens next, let's talk. I'd love to share with you how your faith can grow and how you can go through a process of even asking those questions and bringing those problems you have to God. I hope this series is helping you. We're going to have a processing of it at the last Wednesday of the month of September. So yeah, we would love it if you want to join us there to talk about what you learned and what's helping you with it. If you want to give, our QR code is here on the screen. The link is in the description. We would really appreciate it if it'll go far. We will give an accounting of where every peso goes after a year has passed. God bless you, and we'll see you next week for another episode of When Faith Feels Difficult, When Faith is Difficult. Next week, we're talking about faith when I feel alone. Looking forward to that. See you.